Tonight we have another exciting topic, actually a forum, for the city council candidates. Now, for the upcoming election, we have position 5. The incumbent is Mark Capell, and he is with us tonight. And Nathan Body is also running for that position. We have position 7 also open. Scott Ramsay is the incumbent, and Barb Campbell. Isn't it too bad when you have to look over your glasses to read? It's kind of age a little bit there. And then position 6, we have Richard Robertson, Ron Boozell, aka Rondo, Lisa Seals, and Casey Rhodes. Now we have a few of those candidates here tonight. Mark Capell, Nathan Body, Barb Campbell will be in group 1, and group 2, Casey Rhodes, Richard Robertson, and Lisa Seals. So our moderators tonight are Jamie Christman. She is the Director of Leadership Bend and Community Affairs. We have, did that go out? Hello?
It's out, Jason.
So I did something wrong. We have Aaron Schweitzer from The Source Weekly and Kelly Blyer from News Talk 110. So welcome, thanks for doing this tonight. But I wanted to spend a second also thanking our sponsors, Miller Lumber, Sunwest Builder.
Quit hitting it.
Did you touch the bottom? Yeah, I can see your finger on the bottom. Look, just press and see if the light comes on with a green and a blue.
Okay, it's working. And then Volcanic Theater Pub. Thank you to our sponsors. We feel honored. Thank you very much. So I also wanted to point you in the direction of the Chamber Journal, which has a Q&A with many of the council candidates. It tells why they would like to be a candidate, why they are qualified, and it's great reading. I read it today, so I urge you to go to the journal.
Good job.
It's awesome.
It is off again.
So,
And I know it's got fresh batteries. Jason, is there anything else that we can do?
we can talk about it.
Yeah, you got it.
It's on again, so it keeps going on. Okay, so with that, Jamie will describe the format in a little bit more detail. And I want to thank the chamber staff for all the work they did to put this on again this evening. So thank you.
Yeah.
All right, we'll keep this rocking and rolling. Thank you, Michael. So excited. We've got this forum going on tonight. It's a very interesting format. Before we begin, I would like to let you know, or remind you if you didn't already know, that we record this for our YouTube channel. And how often the editors of various publications have called us to watch it. And you can follow up yourself as a candidate and post additional comments. And you can send it on as a link to your friends and colleagues as well. I think that's a big deal, don't you? To be able to have that out there for free, ultimately. So thank you, Courtney. Speaking of Courtney, if you feel like following along on Twitter, and I'm looking around the room because I know there's at least one Twitter person in the room. Where is he? The hashtag is BendElections. BendElections this evening. Courtney will also be tweeting about the event, and you guys can follow up on that. Look for comments and tweets and whatnot as you educate yourselves. I would like to encourage you real quickly to join us next month. It will be a twist on the State of the Schools address, reaching beyond the classroom, right? We've got Better Together and internship programs and innovation centers and ways that people are actually, and students, connecting with the business community. How can you be involved? Why is it important here? Do we need to grow our own workforce? Why does that matter? So we hope you come and join this conversation with our schools, COCC, OSU, Cascades, Ben LaPine schools, and High Desert ESD will all be there. We need you there as business members and community members to join the conversation. That's on election night, and we'll join you at Deschutes Brewery's Tap Room that evening, our venue for the coming year. I want to give a huge shout out and a thank you to Derek and Jason and the Volcanic Theater Pub team for an awesome year. Would you please give them a round of applause? Isn't this like the coolest, hippest, multifunctional venue you've been to before? I swear. So, amen, right? Exactly. So thank you again, and we'll visit back as we spread the love and whatnot go around. All right, so the format. If I could at this time to put a visual to it, please request that Group 1 come join us up front. So Group 1, Councilor Mark Capell, candidate Nathan Body, and candidate Susan Campbell, or Barb Campbell. Let me just make up names while I'm at it. In Group 1. Group 2, of course, as it says below, Rhodes, Robertson, and Steele. Here's how this is going to go. It's going to go a little more quickly than we've done in some times past. You might as well go ahead and take that off the stand now. We're going to give you an opportunity for opening comments. You have 1 minute tonight for your opening comments. And then we will, of course, kick right into the moderated questions. And we really only have 3, possibly 4, if there's a follow-up. And though I wrote you and said you had 30 seconds, and I'd appreciate it if you could do your best at that, you do have 60 if it absolutely warrants it. Your judge and jury here will wonder if it warrants it. Just one. That being said, at the very end of that portion, you'll have an opportunity for a candidate-to-candidate question in your own group. So if you choose to ask a question, whomever here is in your group. We'll then transition to Group 2, and the same will go for you. Opening comments, same format, opportunity to ask another one in your group a question. We'll then close that down, and we'll pull all of you up front. You'll likely be standing. I'll probably be standing with you and helping get the microphone. You'll have a minute for closing comments together, because we feel it's only fair, since you have different questions in each group, in case you need to respond with your closing comments to some of those items that were addressed earlier. Does that help? Okay? And then, of course, our ultimate goal with a great and intimate, powerful choir of a group, as we have in here, would be some excellent Q&A to follow up in the evening, time gift, right? So that's the format. And we'll do our best to alternate. Sometimes I need reminded with this many people. So, with that said, and opening comments to start, and we have our timers here, Bonnie and Kathleen, thank you very much. You have, Barb, the microphone in your hands. You chose the golden seat. If you would be so kind for tonight's Bend City Council Candidate Forum to kick us off with your opening comments. About a minute, please.
I'd be delighted. Thanks so much. Thanks for coming. Thanks for having us, Derek. My name is Barb Campbell, and I'm a small business owner. I own Wabi Sabi, which is a little store right downtown. I founded my business 5 years ago in the depths of the recession, and we've been growing ever since. I decided to run for city council because our communities are being threatened. We've got people that don't feel like their children are safe walking or riding their bikes to school. We've got people concerned about the university campus moving into their neighborhoods and neighborhoods being taken over by vacation rentals. And the city council has not been keeping up with these issues. I would like to be elected in order to preserve Bend for Bendites, for the people that live here now. Thanks.
Thank you.
1 minute is really fast.
Hi, I'm Nathan Body. I'm a physician and internal medicine doctor at St. Charles. Been in Bend for a number of years now, and I'd like to first thank everybody in the audience. I appreciate your interest in local government. I'd like to thank the Chamber for putting this event together. And finally, I'd like to thank my opponent, actually. I think sometimes these things can get a little bruising, and we forget about the sacrifice and commitment that public servants put in. Unfortunately, he's also led us down the path of very aggressive, wasteful spending. And I think we have to reverse that, and it hasn't been good for the citizens of Bend, It hasn't been good for small business, and I think we need to start a new way of thinking in Bend and really keep us on the path to growth and prosperity.
Thank you. My name is Mark Capell. I've been on the City Council now for almost 8 years. I own a computer service company here in town with 5 employees, plus my wife and I. My family has been in Bend for, next year will be 100 years. So 4th generation Bend. It is an honor to serve on the City Council, but also it's amazingly gratifying because what we're doing is planning for our future. You know, how do we have Bend 10 years, 20 years, 50 years from now be the community that we all want it to be? And why did, for instance, I left and did the corporate thing around the country for 14 years, and I moved home. And so, you know, what drew me back here, how do we keep that livability and beauty and friendliness, and that's what the City Council is working on. I spend a lot of time working on public safety and infrastructure. Thanks.
Great, thank you to the 3 of you. Well done. Not every day that we get to see something in a minute or less up to the 30,000-foot level, but hopefully the questions will take us a little further. So starting with you, Barb, and we'll pass the mic around, and then if you will help me alternate from there with our group. Our first question for you is, you know, hey, vacation rentals. The use of Airbnb, between the two, do you think it's an issue for the city? And if so, what is the solution? If not, why?
I do think it's an issue for the city. It seems that the density of them seems to be what's causing the trouble now. There are 3 areas where the street is more than half vacation rentals, and maybe not density per block, but amount of time per year that you could rent out your home as a vacation rental might be a way to approach that. The other thing that needs to happen is just consistency with the permitting. Right now there are 2 kinds of permits going out, and it's unclear who needs which kind.
So this is a very hot button topic. The last couple of council meetings can be a witness to that. It certainly is an issue in certain parts of Bend. I think that it's not a problem without a solution. I think we could probably regulate these, an amount of vacation rental or a requirement for a long-term occupation for at least part of the year, because we're a service industry town. We have a town based a lot on tourism. We want people to come and visit. It's a good problem to have. We just have to make sure it's not tearing up our neighborhoods in the process, and that's a solution we can come up with.
This is an interesting issue because there is extreme passion on both sides of the argument. And I understand the people that, you know, if the 3 houses that were around my house were all vacation rentals, I probably wouldn't be real thrilled with that. And so I understand where they're coming from. I also understand the property rights issue. And so with that much passion when it comes to council, I think it's really important that we make sure we do our due diligence. And if you want to go back and watch last week's council meeting, in the last 5 or 10 minutes, there was a plan put forward, a study, so that we can come up with the right solution instead of taking a knee-jerk reaction to something that has so much passion.
Thank you to all 3 of you.
Bonnie, you want to take this question to start? How do you feel the council has done managing the Mirror Pond issue? And then you'll get an additional minute to follow that with what do you feel the solution is and how would you pay for it?
So the answer is no, the council's not done a very laudable job on the Mirror Pond issue. So far, there's been a lot of abdication of responsibility. It is a very polarized issue in Bend. Mirror Pond is an iconic image, and it's part of our town. approach that I would have taken would be to lead and work with the dam's owner to come up with a solution. Instead, we're several $100,000 into study without a solution, without anything really having been decided. Do we continue on? So then what do we do about it? So I have actually a pretty intimate knowledge on a very similar project on the Chattahoochee River in Georgia, where an old derelict dam that was no longer needed was actually taken out, turned into a whitewater park. I think that's probably the sort of thing that makes sense, some type of constructed area that keeps Mirror Pond in its more or less same condition as a scenery and a vital part of downtown, but even enhances our recreational opportunities and dovetails well with the Colorado Recreation Project and the Bend Paddle Trail Alliance. So I think there's a solution there that's obvious that will enhance our town. The thing that we cannot and must not do is spend public funds trying to purchase a dam or trying to run an outdated facility that is no longer even wanted by its owner.
Do you need me to repeat the question?
I think I have it.
Okay.
Thanks. Okay, so for the last year, I've been on the Mirror Pond Management Board. And during that time, I've also been on the subcommittee that is negotiating with Pacific Power. To answer the first part of the question, has a good job been done? I think it's been slow. I think the early drafts that the Parks District put out of what do the different things look like were just confusing to most people. I looked at them and said, I don't really see a whole lot of difference between all these options. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But we did gain some knowledge. We gained three things. One is about half the community wants to keep the pond. The second thing we learned was the other half of the community wants to get rid of the dam and turn it back into a river. And the third thing we learned was nobody wants to pay for it. Okay, so now I'm into my next minute. Almost? Okay, so I actually was in Portland last Wednesday, met with the CEO of Pacific Power and the CEO of Pacific Corp, and they are going to be doing a study of some costs that they're seeing that they then have to get approval from the PUC because they're responsible to the PUC and their ratepayers. But they're very encouraging, and what we want to do is we're putting together some ideas that probably in the next couple of weeks will be out to the public so that we can get feedback and see what people think. But the idea is a public-private partnership where we are able to take the dam out but maintain the pond and have what's more like a free-flowing river, but it'll be a small waterfall headed down from about where the dam is now. So there's about a 13, 14-foot drop from the top of the dam to the river level. So if you spread that 13 feet out over a couple hundred feet, you can have something that satisfies those that want the river and satisfies those that want the pond. And if we do it as a public-private partnership, potentially not to have the taxpayers take any of the bill on it.
The first part of the question, I would say the City Council has done a terrible job so far. In my world, terrible equals wasting people's money. The City Council and the Parks Board each kicked in $100,000 to do a survey that they later themselves described as unscientific, and so they could completely ignore any results that they got, and the results that they got, as Mark mentioned, were the community is completely split. So $200,000 later, and we've come nowhere. As far as what to do, the vision that Mark has does seem to be the more mainstream approach now, which is something that is a little bit more of a hybrid, that has a quote-unquote dam that is a more natural, aesthetically appealing, that could open up the land where the Dan is now and where the old powerhouse is for redevelopment, which I think would be fantastic. I eat lunch there on the deck outside of Super Burrito, and right now it's looking down at that ugly powerhouse, and that could be one of the most beautiful areas of downtown if we could redevelop that. Who's going to pay for it? Number one in my mind is making sure that Pacific Power pays their fair share. I am really hesitant to ask the citizens to pick up the tab for any part of what they think is going to be a $25 million project without them having a say, without them actually getting to vote or a scientific survey. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, so Kelly Blyer, News Talk 1110 KBND is also recording this evening, and as usual with our forums, as a participant, she puts snippets back out on the air.
I'm headed back to work after this to put stories together. All right, we'll start with Mark Capell on this question. With the serious lack of affordable housing comes a commuting trend from surrounding areas. Do you support additional funds going to transportation? Why or why not?
That's a tough question because transportation, are you talking about transit? Or
Transportation, yeah.
Okay.
Roads, all of that.
Okay,
Funds
so-
towards this process.
Okay, so, yes. I would say that the areas we've done well on infrastructure is water and sewer. We have good long-range plans with how we're going to pay for them long-term. And the area that we still have work to do is in transportation. And it's my 2015 goal to get that long-range, how do we fund more transit, how do we fund more roads, and also getting back to the root problem of affordable housing. Getting the UGB finished will open up land that will make it more affordable, and my time is up, so I will just...
You got a little grace. We interrupted you. You got a little
Okay.
grace. Yeah.
So the UGB, so we get more land, which could potentially lower lot prices for a more affordable workforce housing. And the city has a number of projects going on the affordable housing front.
Yes, what money is an excellent question, but let's imagine that there is money. It needs to go toward transit and transportation. Our road system is in dire need of maintenance work, and it's the kind of maintenance, like all maintenance on our homes, where if you don't do it, the costs really start to skyrocket. The difference between chip sealing a road and then having to go back in and actually repair a road are huge. In addition to that, we need more funds for transit in the sense that the neighborhoods around where the new college should go have been told that, oh, don't worry about the parking, the kids are going to ride the bus. Well, right now there is no bus for the kids to ride, and the buses don't run late enough for them to be able to get home after class. So both of those needs really do need to be addressed.
The answer is yes, absolutely. We do need to address transportation much better than we have so far. We need better public transportation, yes. We also need to maintain the road infrastructure that we have already, and we need to make sure that as we grow, we're putting in intelligent planning into road design and where these things go. What you'll hear from my friend is a lot about infrastructure and a lot about this project and then this project, and we funded this project with some taxpayer money, and we funded this project, and then the next project is roads. I think what we do is we stop dipping into the taxpayer's wallet time after time, and we use that money more responsibly so that we are maintaining the infrastructure that we have, and we have money left over for things like transportation.
Perfect, thank you. And thank you for the questions and working on getting those out there for our community and to all of you. So this is the portion, and thank you to you two as timers. You know, they were timing you on those 30 seconds and then allowing us to gauge the judgment of whether in another 30 seconds. So note to group two, they're doing a great job, but that first set is 30-second space. This is the opportunity for you to ask a question of another candidate. And so Mark, you left off, the mic is back in Barb's hand. If you've had a burning question for another candidate in your group, I realize your opponent's not here. If you want to put out the proverbial question to your candidate and YouTube world sees it, that's your choice.
That's an interesting approach.
I know.
You should ask it and give his answer.
I know. Can I ask and give his answer?
I want to see you.
All right, here, I'm going to ask and give his answer. Mr. Ramsay, how much do you think the urban growth boundary should grow? Well, Ms. Campbell, as I mentioned in the last UGB meeting, which you were in attendance, I would like the UGB to grow much farther and much faster than either of the two plans being considered by the city right now. Hold on, was that the city's attorney I hear telling Mr. Ramsay? Mr. Ramsay, we can't do that. That's why the state told us no in the first place, and now we're in the remand period. Thank you, Mr. Ramsay.
Derek, can I take your acting classes?
Well done, and you're much better looking too. So. My question will be for Mark. There is a pipeline project connected with the city water, surface water project, which is going under Skyliner Road. That project is currently being reviewed by federal court and optimistically might have a 70 or even 80% chance of success, which leaves the odds worse than Russian roulette that the citizens and taxpayers of Bend will ever see any use of that pipe, and that would just be millions of dollars wasted into lost funds. Can you answer what is the justification for spending that kind of public money before we know we can even use that?
What Nathan is talking about is our water project that brings half of our water supply into the community and half of our water rights. So it is a critical piece of living in Bend. And we have attorneys who have said we're very confident that we're going to be able to move forward on this, and the county and the Forest Service were ready to tear up Skyliner Road, so we had to put the pipe under before they rebuilt the road so that we wouldn't waste millions of dollars tearing up a new road. And it is a good long-term infrastructure project for the community. I would guess we'll be using this pipeline, and I'm just really not paying attention to your time's up thing. It's something that we'll be benefiting for hundreds of years. And so I keep the mic, it's my turn. Okay, so Nathan. You didn't think I'd ask you, did you, Mark? No. Okay, Nathan. I've heard you say that we need to lower the tax that we're collecting, the property tax collection, and return some of that money to the taxpayers. And even though the city of Bend has one of the lowest tax rates, property tax rates in the state. So I brought this for you, and I'm sure you're well familiar with this, but here is the general fund, the budget of the city. And this is where the property tax money goes. There isn't water funds in here, there isn't sewer funds in here. This is the property tax that you want to cut. So my question to you is, with 85% of this money going to public safety, police and fire, and small percentages going to these other items, show me where you're going to cut. Because you've criticized my spending, but you haven't given me specifics of how we're going to cut these budgets.
So my response would be, I suppose when I say tax, I use the blanket term of dipping into Ben's residents' wallets. So there's the property tax, there are bonds, there are sewer rates, there are water utility rates. All of these are the city of Bend taking money from residents to do its job of running a city government. We've seen utility rates risen 90% in the last few years. further rates scheduled in the next 2. So I think what we cut is we cut the outrageous expenditures that we're doing for things like a water pipe that already exists that may not be used ever. And we take that money and we're not taking that from the citizens of Bend in another form. So how we consider taxes, it just depends on how many times you want to dip into people's wallet, I guess. I would say less is better.
But you said you wanted to lower property taxes, and that's property taxes. So you still haven't given me a specific.
I haven't analyzed your chart.
You said you had to lower property taxes. We need to be able to get it on the record what you said.
I think we can lower those as well,
Okay.
but I think the spending is across the board, and I think the most egregious parts are part of the infrastructure that has been misspent and really overscaled. We're paying far more than other towns our size for the same thing that other places are getting more cheaply.
So you want to lower property taxes, but you've never looked at our property tax spending.
I have looked at our property tax spending, and I certainly think that public safety, roads and infrastructure, public health are the things that a city government should be doing. I think if we don't waste our money on pet projects, we have more money to do the things that a city government should be doing.
So that was a double rebuttal. That worked. It's fine. We allowed that this evening. We've already.
Is that a rebuttal?
No, I appreciate that the two of you are sitting shoulder to shoulder and taking the time to go through that right in front of us, with us, and allow us to witness. I think in the Q&A portion, we can cover even some more of this. So I'm sure the audience is taking note, and of course, any of your closing comments on that. So with that said, I would like to thank the three of you here in Group 1, and we're going to go ahead and give them a round of applause and transition to Group 2.
Good luck. Fun.
Jeremy, let's go ahead and just rack your chair, bring it up, and make sure that you're by Richard here on this side. And Lisa, if you'd be so kind to sit in the center. Of course. Okay, thank you.
And we'll have you stick close, candidates, when you get refreshed. Come back, because we'll pull everybody back up all together for some closing comments and some Q&A. I'd like to also welcome Jeremy Kuhn, who is Richard's campaign manager. A round of applause for him for the work that he's done this year. Go ahead and pull the microphone, if you would, out of the handle here, because it's going to go quickly back and forth. Thank you to all three of you for being up here and being part of this tonight. I know it's a very unusual format, and we appreciate the grace of the audience as well. And on that note, if you'd be so kind to start with your opening comments, Casey Rhodes.
Sure. Thank you for having me. My name is Casey Rhodes. I'm a fourth-generation Bend resident as well. My family and I own and operate Rhodes Water System, which is a privately held water utility company that operates in the south end of Bend. So we own and operate an asset that's just exactly what the city of Bend does in terms of delivering water to people's residences and businesses. The experience of having built a solid, very financially sound water utility company, I think, is directly relevant and practical and applicable to what I would be doing on the city of Bend and helping managing its billion-dollar asset. The biggest reason I'm running is for my two daughters, Makai and Ellie. They're 7 and 4 years old. And to hit on what Barb said earlier about representing people who are in Bend now, part of what we have to do is represent those girls too, and your kids. And they're not voters, but they're going to need a home in Bend someday. And I'd like for Bend to be an option for them. So when we think about who we're taking care of and who we're looking out for, we have to make sure we think about the people to come, and those include the kids in our own homes and our own families, and the hard choices we might need to make that happen.
Hi everybody, my name is Lisa Seals. I wanted to thank everybody here at the Chamber of Commerce and the folks at the Volcanic Theater Pub and all of you for coming this evening. Thank you very much. So my name is Lisa Seals, and I am an educator and research scientist. I work at OSU Cascades and COCC, and I recently received a doctorate in collaborative water management. And I am running for city council because I really believe this would be an excellent place for me to use my skills and experience and education to serve Bend. I have fallen madly in love with the community. I'm a native Oregonian, And I really just want to make sure that it remains a place that we all want to be. The city is at a crossroads right now. It is growing extremely fast, and there's no way we can stop growth. But I want to make sure that we are very responsible and that we are forward-thinking and we are planning very well for that growth and still preserving all the things that we love about Bend. So thank you all again for being here.
Good evening, the City of Bend residents. Hello, my name is Richard Wayne Robinson. I have lived Bend since 1983. I graduated from Bend Senior High School in 1994. I am running for City Councilman, and I am hopeful in bringing changing City of Bend. I would like all other citizens of City of Bend to vote for me for this election. Number one, public safety is priority for my campaign. I support the City of Bend police and fire departments. Number two, I want to make sure your tax dollars will spend so you can get more bang for your buck. Number three, I believe that City of Bend should support programs to lift up the poor, the degraded favorable housing.
All right, thank you, Richard, thank you, Lisa, and thank you, Casey. We'll get into the moderated questions part. Come back to you, Casey. Do you support the neighborhood opposition efforts to move the siting of the OSU Cascades expansion? Why or why not?
I don't, and I understand where those folks are coming from. Change is hard. I grew up in Bend back when it was 25,000 people, and I've seen the change. And change is tough when your community changes and your little quaint town isn't what it once was. But I see the upside of what OSU could be for our community, and I also don't see another viable location. And if there was one, I'm sure they'd have it on their website and make it more well known. But I just don't see another location that's viable.
I 150% support the expansion of the OSU Cascades campus, and I think that although it's been wrought with a lot of contention, I think that the site is a decent site for the campus. I think that most importantly, though, we need to get ahead of the curve when it comes to planning, because change is inevitable and it's happening, and so the city needs to be a good partner to the OSU Cascades as well as to the neighborhood surrounding the campus, so that together we can come up with solutions to things before they actually are problems.
I'd like to have USU campus coming to the town and to spend, and I'd like to have all the community be together, and I want the City of Bend to grow. And I'd like to have the economy and the community be together.
All right, thank you. Kelly Blyer, you're on deck.
I need my glasses too. Okay. Do you support permanent funding for public safety? Why or why not? We'll start with Lisa.
Yes, I definitely support permanent funding for public safety. It's really unacceptable to have a town that can't access, or its residents when they need public safety. So I know right now we've got a levy that is passed for the next 5 years for the fire department, but I think that is just a temporary solution, and we really need to think outside the box so that we can make sure to fund our fire department, our police, ambulance, all of the public safety in town. So I definitely 100% support that.
My campaign team is Jimmy King. He wants me to be number one. It says, public safety is priority for my campaign. I support the City of Bend, police and fire departments.
It's my understanding that the fire department in particular only has half the full-time employees that other cities of our size has. So yes, I do believe that we should seriously consider taking a hard look at permanent funding. So we don't have to go out to vote to cover those most basic of needs, because I certainly want the fire department to be able to respond to my house when it's on fire, and for the police to get there should they need to.
Richard, you're going to start this one? What are your thoughts about moving away from a volunteer city council to a paid elected mayor and a paid city council?
Well, yes, I do want to be part of the community. Yes, I would running for city mayor in my first time. And I am running for city council of the 2014 November 4th election.
And if you don't mind, we'd like to follow up with this question later with an email response to the Chamber of Commerce. Thank you.
And we can put that up on YouTube to where it responds to that component as well by time. You can say what timing that is, Jeremy.
I myself like our current form of city government, where we have a strong executive in the city manager and that the city council is a policy-making board. I want our city councilors working, managing businesses, raising families, out in the community, seeing the actual effect city government has on their ability to build buildings, build homes, I want them to feel the effect of what the policies that are coming down are. So, no, I like our volunteer and our current form of government. I think it's best.
All right, the three. Oh.
You can skip me if you want. I do have an answer to this question though. I think that actually paying a council and paying a mayor might level the playing field a tiny bit and allow people who are not able to run. I mean, people who might not have 20 hours a week to give to public service or might not be independently wealthy have the ability to get up there and be involved in city politics. So I do think that having a paid staff or a paid council makes good sense. I wouldn't necessarily advocate it being a full-time job though, because I also agree that it's very important that counselors are part of the community, working in the community with jobs in the community. So sort of a hybrid of those two things would be best.
Thank you to all three of you, and thanks to your grace on that, Lisa. Going back and forth and making notes, sometimes that's just what happens. On this moment, this is an opportunity for a candidate-to-candidate question here within your group. Who would like to start?
Yeah, I'd like to have my candidacy, my opponent is Rondo. What I told him, you're in the truth, you cannot handle the truth. Because why? Because listen, why? I got it from Jack Nicholson from Every Do Man. Because I have a chance to win for November 4th, 2014 election, and I have approved to let me run money for city council, that I can be a Chamber of Commerce.
All right, so Casey, it is my impression that you are in support of a rather large expansion of the UGB, or perhaps a larger expansion than I may be in support of. And I've heard you say many times that you think that land prices and the availability or lack thereof of land prices are the reason for some of the affordability issues that we're dealing with in town. So my question then is, if we were to expand the UGB to which, however big we can get it, how would that help with the affordability issues when we still have to bring sewer and water and public safety to those outer lying areas, which is already a concern in our current sized city?
This is time.
Yeah, they are.
30 seconds.
You get 30 seconds.
It's not nearly enough.
Unless the rebuttals go back and forth like the group before.
Sure. So, yes, I do believe in the laws of supply and demand, and I don't think any one of us gets the opportunity to determine where they apply and where they don't. My wife and I just built a house on a piece of ground our family's had for a while, right off of Brookswood Boulevard, and it has 6 acres on it. And the rhetorical question is knowing that other people are wanting to constrict land supply, what is our incentive to sell it anytime soon? The carrying costs are way underneath what the appreciation will be, and it really behooves us to sit on it. So their 6 acres doesn't get counted into our buildable land supply, and that's just that much more affordable housing that will not come into play because it simply isn't going to hit the market. And I can take you to subdivisions in our water system currently. There's not a for sale sign, there's no activity, and it isn't because the guy likes paying taxes on those built lots. It's because he thinks they're going to be worth a lot more. They need competition.
All right, so you answered. Do you have a question?
I do.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You do, Lisa, and Erin leaned over to remind me of that earlier. You do. Yes, you have a 30-second rebuttal. Pardon me.
I understand that. I took economics, but I still don't understand how expanding the city is really going to help with affordability in terms of all the infrastructure and the public safety costs that are dipping into taxpayer dollars, into taxpayer pockets right now. So I'm wondering how, as a city, we're going to be able to get out ahead of that curve and make that affordable, because that's a big part of affordability. It's not just land prices that are dictating how much it costs for somebody to live and buy a home here.
If the crowd enjoys it, I think this is our only distinction thus far. I own a water utility company, so I know full well the cost of working inside an existing city. It is outrageously expensive to go dig up an existing street to bring larger sewer mains and larger water mains to meet the infill development that comes from added higher density. And having served on the Sewer Infrastructure Advisory Group, Nathan and I actually proposed the significant expenses they're going to get put on the council's plate. And I fully stand behind those decisions we've made. And it's things like the Southeast Interceptor that are getting built in the southeast part of town that infrastructure is coming, and it creates the capacity in the future that we will need for affordable housing.
It's on.
Sorry.
Last rebuttal.
So you're saying that with the existing infrastructure projects that we're doing right now, you think that is going to make all of the UGB expandable land accessible for development, and it's not going to continue to cost taxpayers money to expand out into those outer lying areas?
That actually was a question.
Sorry.
He's right.
I was looking for
And it was really his
Okay.
turn to ask the question, so I'm gonna have to cut it.
Okay, fine.
You guys can take it up in Q&A. Okay.
Sure. In the last 4 years since you've been in Bend, one of the seminal and most important topics in the community has been the surface water improvement project, by far. And I know that water management was the focus of your work and your doctorate in academia and your PhD that you use for work. And the question I would have is, from the committee work I did, took a role in advocating for that project. and I went to public meetings, and I stood up and advocated for it, and I had to get on the other side of issue with people who would otherwise probably be in my base of support, and it was hard, but that's what leaders do. If water management is your bread and butter, why didn't I see you at any of the events advocating one way or the other for that project at all during the last 4 years?
It's a really good question. Well, to tell you, my dissertation didn't focus on Bend specifically. I was looking at the Oregon Watershed Enhancement Board and its special investment partnerships that are happening on the Upper Deschutes Watershed Basin and the Willamette. So my research was pretty much focused on that. And in order to complete a dissertation, for those of you that have never done it, it takes kind of putting your blinders on and your head down and really finishing. The other really important part of my personal life is that I lost my mother during the last few years of my dissertation. She passed away after a long battle with lung cancer, and as the only daughter of a single parent, I was called away from Bend for periods of time to deal with her health care. And so that was a big reason that kept me from really being an active member of the community.
Do you need a rebuttal for that at all,
No.
Casey? Was there something you needed there? All right, I really need to make it. I'm batting 1,000 tonight. Sorry, Casey. Thanks for the grace. Again, all of you have done really well. We've appreciated the way you've handled this unique format so that we can get to the root of a few things. This is an opportunity where I would ask all the candidates, if you would be so kind, to go ahead and come on up front here. Casey, if you'll pull out this mic with you, I'm going to come up and join you and grab the wireless.
Do you want them to stand?
No, I want you to go ahead and everybody stand up at front here. Good photo op. Photo op. Anybody? Sorry.
Don't forget me.
So real quickly, and who has the mic that we can pass around? All right, this is our opportunity for closing comments. I want to make sure that you're given enough time. I did put 1 minute, but if you absolutely think it warrants it, the girls know to work with me for an additional 30 seconds if you really need it, because I know you heard different questions from each group. And if you'd be so kind, we'll go ahead and get that started. Who would like to start first?
I'll go. 30 seconds. So again, thank you for being here. I think that one of the, obviously clearly the only distinction that was sharp in contrast was Lisa and I's approach to the urban growth boundary and how we would deal with that in the future. And the challenge I would have is how do we create anything that's affordable if we don't create more supply, period. And it's beyond that, we're supposed to meet it by state law, a 20-year land supply. So it's not an arbitrary decision that we would want to increase urban growth boundary, but that it's a mix, and it's a reasonable mix between infill and redevelopment, but also understanding that the laws of supply and demand really do affect the cost of housing, and that none of my employees who work for our company can afford a house in Bend. I have a person in my own family who's a young single woman who is a professional in the marketing industry. She and her friends can't find a place to rent because of the less than 1% vacancy. And when they do, it's hardly within reach in terms of cost. That's a driving issue for me, and that's one of the most important issues facing our community.
Thank you, Casey. Richard.
I want to work with the city of Bend. And I want the Americans with Disabilities Act to finish our sidewalks so senior citizens, a city of Bend, people with disabilities can get around. As I will running for November 4th, 2014, I will run as your city councilor, and I will focus on keeping Bend Parks and Rec District apartments the best of Central Oregon. And I do want to have City of Bend to grow, and I want the community and economy to stay together.
Thank you, Richard.
Well, thanks once again, everybody. This was really exciting, and I appreciate y'all's participation and look forward to any questions too. I think that as a physician, my job is to take care of the patient in front of me, and right now the patient in front of me is the city of Bend, and we just have to make sure that we grow in a healthy and responsible way so that people continue to prosper, so that people continue to want to come to Bend, and so that businesses continue to find this a fertile, welcoming place to do their job. And we have to maintain an affordability in this town so that young families, single people, service industry workers have a place to come that is welcoming and keep Bend the nice place that we all enjoy for the reasons that we came here. And we have to do that with responsible planning and responsible growth. We really teeter on the brink, and we could tip one way or the other. And this is a very important election because of that. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Nathan. I think that there's a very clear choice in the race for the position I'm running for. I am very interested in the quality of our community right now. Our entire economy rests on that quality of life. That's why people want to come here. That's why we need to expand the UGB, is because we have something special here, and that needs to be protected. I'm running because so many people feel like that is being threatened. The other side is more concerned that what's being threatened is the ability to make a whole lot of money off of our community. And I think those are very distinct differences. Thanks so much for your time. Thanks for coming out to me.
Thank you, Barb.
There is a distinct difference between my opponent and myself. 10 to 15 years ago, the city got behind in keeping up with infrastructure for the phenomenal growth we were going through. And we have worked hard since I've been on council to move that infrastructure forward and come up with long-term plans. How do we manage the infrastructure? So for instance, in the sewer plant, we have 30-year plans that we can speed up or slow down depending on what happens with population growth. And we have ways to fund it. And that kind of long-term planning is what my opponent wants to abandon. And I think it's just critically important. If we want to maintain our quality of life, we need to keep moving forward on planning for the future, because people are going to continue to move here. We have 80,000 population roughly now. Portland State estimates we're going to have 120,000 by the year 2030, and we need to be prepared for that so that we can keep our community very nice.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay. I'm really concerned and looking out for all current Bend residents. That being said, I think planning is incredibly important. We can't look out for current Bend residents without thinking ahead and forward planning for the future. However, I don't necessarily think that the people of Bend today should be shouldered with the burden of paying for the growth of the future. So that, I think, is the distinction. I completely believe that we do need to be forward thinking, and I will forever advocate good planning, master planning. But I do also think that we need to stop dipping into the pocketbooks of current residents to make sure that we are taking care of residents that are coming in the future.
All right. Thank you to all of our candidates for their closing comments at this time. This affords us an opportunity to go ahead and get into Q&A, so we want to keep that mic handy for you to pass back and forth. You want to make your questions specific and direct whether it is 1, 2, 3, who it goes to, and tell us who you are.
I'm Robbie Vandiver, and I want to say thank you to all of you for doing what you do and willing to run. As a retired city councilor from the city of Union, I know how thick your skin's gonna be. My comment and question goes to property taxes. Like Sizemore, I'm not a very popular person when it comes to property taxes. In 97, Measure 50 crippled us. We know that. Now in the crash of 2008, That was another cripple. But I'm not sure how many people got treated fairly on that. I bought a new house in 2010, and I had to fight tooth and nail with the county assessor to get him to understand that he had to lower my taxes by law, because I bought that house at far less than what he valued it at. Now, when the crash hit, whatever you purchase a house for by the Oregon Supreme Court is considered the value of that house. And if it's lower than what the county or the city had for it, then by law they're required to lower it. And I'm not sure how many people knew that or how many got it other than us that went in and addressed it. When we addressed it, we did get it. So that's just food for thought. I don't know if the city went through, they were supposed to go through and reassess everybody's taxes, but I don't know. And it is a crippling, and it's hard to deal with. That's what happened.
Anybody want to tackle that, even lightly?
I'm not sure if there's a question, but the city doesn't do assessing. We go based on the county's tax assessment. So the issue is more with county commission and the county tax assessor. The interesting thing about Bend and property taxes is when the property tax limitation measure was put in place, property tax rates were set based on what you were collecting at the time. So what did you have out in the way of bonds, and what were your current property taxes at the time? And that's how they set the limits. So Bend didn't have anything out at the time, and so our property tax rate was set very low. So to give you an example, Bend's property tax rate per thousand is half that of the city of Redmond's. And it makes for interesting challenges to try and balance how do we spend the money that we receive.
Thank you. And that's a good explanation of what goes on with the taxes here in Bend, I think. Other questions, real quick. Show of hands. How many people have a question?
Hi, I'm Keith Dodge. I had a question for the group. First group, second group got the question about the OSU Cascades. First group did not, so I just want to know your feelings on the positioning of it as being projected versus elsewhere.
Well, I'll start with that. I have to remain neutral because there's a very good chance that the decision that we will be making and that we preliminarily made last week will get appealed to LUBA, and there is a very good chance that it could get remanded back to City Council. So our question, though, at City Council wasn't did we like the location. The question was, did it match up with our development code? And the City Council decided that the application did match the development code, and so we sent it forward. It will probably get appealed, and it will probably come back to us. But overall, I'm hugely in favor of having OSU in Bend, regardless of where they are, because I think it's a good thing for education and it's a good thing for economic development.
Nathan and Barb?
Totally agree that we will benefit mightily from a four-year university here in Bend. That's a great idea. Where it should go is another question. I think that the current council has abdicated a lot of its responsibility for leadership on the issue. I think that discussions could have been held at a far earlier time to identify an optimal place that needs redevelopment that really could benefit from having a campus. It's already pretty crowded on this side of town, and what I'm hearing when I talk to public safety and fire staff is they're concerned about how to get their trucks in and out of there. Residents are concerned about where to park. I think this is indicative of the kind of thing that we really need to plan carefully and not abdicate that responsibility and just sort of say, well, we can't really fight this legally. I don't think that's the avenue. I think we should have led from the beginning to come up with a more optimal site, perhaps, and hopefully that will not come to haunt us.
I think that the group that's opposed to that site has one thing exactly right, and that's the name to their organization, which they're calling Truth in Sight. I think that as long as the city is telling the truth about the obstacles to building on that site, because there are obstacles, I think we can get past them. I think we can make it work. But right now, there are things going on, like when they discussed traffic, the map that was used for the basis of the traffic plans did not include Reed Market Road. I was describing that as problem solving through creative cartography, which I don't think is a great way to go about solving problems, is just draw the map to exclude a major intersection. The other one is, I mentioned before, we keep hearing about how the students are going to be riding the buses. Well, what buses? We don't have a system that's adequate even for COCC right now. How are we going to address that? As long as we're telling the truth, as long as we're actually addressing the obstacles, I think we can make it work over there.
All right, another question here.
Well, this is a little bit of a follow-up, but it's a pretty hot button topic. I think the OSU decision is right there with UGB in terms of affecting for decades the direction that takes. So I guess, and I don't know who this goes to, group 1 or group 2, what is your position, and this may have all somewhat been answered, about the city council decision? If you were a councilor last week on that decision, what would you have done? And if you felt constrained by the process, things like existing code, what will you do during your term to change that process to give the city council the license to make a better decision or have greater authority or input in order to direct the community in the way that you would like to see it directed?
Mike, I suppose I'll take a stab at it, if that's all right. I think that the city code and zoning is a little bit vague. I think that the process typically involves a builder going back and forth with the city planning department for months, and it tends to involve a lot of burdensome fees, and it's a very cumbersome process because it's a vague code. I think that's the first thing that would be smart to address. That's inherent in any expansion of the UGB. It's inherent in siting of a development. It's inherent in the OSU Cascade site. And I think it's not so much loosening it up so that the council can just approve or disapprove. I think it's a matter of making the code work for Bend and work for our residents so that we grow intelligently and so that it doesn't become a contentious process that requires months and months of back and forth with the city. It's a clear planning document that guides our development. If anybody else wants to stab it.
One of the pitfalls of a city council writing code around a specific project is you're writing code around a specific project. And we won't have another four-year university come get dropped in town. And if we were to write the code so stringently that to fit our liking, we would potentially stop other employers from being able to come to town. And the bigger issue for me is why don't we have more good locations for OSU Cascades? Why don't we have a plethora of choices on the outskirts of our city that have the services to it that we need? And that gets to the UGB issue of we need more space.
So since I'm holding the mic, it's really easy for me to say I would
Hold
agree.
it closer, in fact.
I would agree with what the city council voted on unanimously last week because I was there. It is part of Oregon's land use, and it is the process we have as a state. The code, could it be tightened or loosened, I think is up for debate and probably not the critical issue. The critical issue was, did they meet our development code as it's written today? And if land is zoned for a proper use, anyone can develop it for that use. And so the issue is, do we want to get in between all of the developers who, I mean, you have to think of OSU as a developer. Do we want to get between us and all of the developers in the community and say, yeah, we don't want your development here even though it's zoned correctly? I mean, that opens up a can of worms that's a bit of a mess.
I definitely don't think we should rewrite codes every time we have somebody that applies for something. That being said, I also think that we have historically made codes and laws and policies, and we tend to stick to them without realizing or asking do these really apply to the changing times? And I know that's very true with water law that was written back in 1909 and still is very much applied today in that same way. So I think it makes sense to go back and look at our policies and our zoning and our codes with some regularity to make sure that they are fitting the necessary uses of the times. So I would advocate doing that.
Another question right here.
Can I
Barbara,
answer? I'm sorry, I didn't take my turn at the beginning. And I would just like to say that I completely disagree with comparing the university to any other developer. The university is a public university, which means it's our money. They won't ever be paying any property taxes. And as the gentleman mentioned, there's every reason to think they're going to be in our community for at least 100 years. I took classes in a university in a 100-year-old building. I took chemistry classes in there. It was not good. They should not have had the chemistry lab in there. So I think there's a big difference in the city working with a public university and getting in between a developer and what that developer would like to do on private land that's for sale.
I'm Foster Fell. A couple weeks ago, Barb and I toured Bethlehem Inn. It was so nice of them to spend the time to give us a look at what they do, the challenges they face. We asked Chris, the director, what a city councilor could do to help out. And he said two things: affordable housing and living wage jobs. And so I'll probably ask the most controversial question of the evening right now. Should a city council consider zoning for low-income housing?
Absolutely. So I don't think it's even a question of should we. I think it's a question of we have to. And I don't think we have to even consider it as low-income housing. I think what we are seeing in Bend now is a lack of an array of housing across income levels. And we need the ability to have a large property with a big yard if someone is looking for that. And we need to have something for young families and single parents and service industry workers. And we need to have low-income housing so we don't have a problem with people being priced out onto the streets or in many cases coming into the hospital to see me because they're getting frostbitten or they're just kind of falling apart because they're so confronted. That's less expensive for a town if we have an affordable array of housing. Absolutely, the council should be in that business.
I think that in addition to the zoning, because I hear as an argument for expanding the UGB more, that we already have lands that are zoned for multifamily homes, apartments, and they're just not being built because that's not a profitable development opportunity. And so I think that in addition to making sure that we have those lands that are zoned, that are available, I think it might be appropriate for the city to offer other incentives to try and get the kind of housing that we need in our community. With like SDC charges, for example, can we give a break to someone if they're building a type of project that we need?
Who else would like to tackle that question?
Yeah, I'd like to, I am peacemaker, I am maker of law, and I do agree to these candidates because I need to get along to respect these candidates because I want to make sure where you're coming from because I am going to door, I will go to neighbor, and I will running for city council as your same. And I like to. I got I got support of my campaign team and my wonderful parents. And I got these candidates right here beside me because they want you. And I want to work with them because I want to have City of Bend to grow. Because I got a power to do it and I will win this election.
I'm not for growth and I'm not against growth. Growth is going to come. And currently the people that you just spoke about, Foster, are totally priced out of the marketplace. I can give you an example. I bought, in 2005, home prices were going nuts. I was single at the time when I purchased my home, and there was an Oregon State bond fund that was created specifically for first-time home buyers. So I was able to buy a house in there, and it was a great deal. We built equity in it. We sold it last fall. It was wonderful. The feel-good story stops there, and the reason why, the guy who bought it from me was a cash buyer and an investor, and because the returns are so great on rentals right now, it got turned into a rental house where I was paying $1,000 a month in a mortgage, building equity in our community and in that home, and the family now is paying $1,650 a month in rent. So supply does affect those issues.
I think there's a lot the city can do in terms of affordable housing. I disagree that we don't want neighborhoods of affordable housing. I think we want blended housing types. And I think the city council is looking right now at a number of options for increasing affordable housing. So for instance, we're looking at upzoning. So if somebody builds affordable housing, we can increase the zoning to allow them to have higher density so that it's more affordable. We're looking at STC deferral. We're looking at a number of things, and the discussion will be going on for the next couple of months.
I absolutely think it's the job of the city council to look out for all of the interests of all of the residents of the city of Bend, not just certain residents and certain interests. So certainly folks who are dealing with affordable housing issues, that's a huge job that falls on the shoulders of the city council. And I'm happy to hear that it's in the works. So I would say yes, simply.
All right, unless we have one absolute burning question remaining, do we? Anybody out there with something just obvious left off the table that you'd like to ask? I think this is a great time to go ahead and thank all our candidates here this evening for a fantastic job. Those of you that are guests here tonight, that gives us a few minutes for any additional networking that you'd like, and we wish you the best of luck in your campaign moving forward. Thank you again, everybody, for being here tonight to What's Brewing, Bend's Town Hall.